Hi, everyone. Let's go ahead and now we're going to take a look at drawing Mr. Mouse here on learning to see objects. So we've got our little guy here. The first thing I want you to notice that when we go ahead and draw the sort of the shape of the body here, just notice that the tail itself is just a tiny bit longer than the overall length of the torso and the head and the rest of the body. Interesting. So when you're planning out your space here, we're going to go ahead and put that line through here. We're going to think about that. So I'm going to start off over here, and let's start off with our head, and we kind of come up with our torso. Right, and we come back down, and we'll say right about here is sort of where that tail begins. So then we'll sort of put a line right there, a little indent to sort of show myself that. And then I'm going to take that tail down, go back up, and then out again. All right, and we notice that I want to keep that line here from here to here just a tiny bit longer than what was going to be the part of the body here. So let's go and begin by bringing in the basic shapes now of my little mouse here. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a kidney bean shape here on that torso. Kind of bring that down, right? It kind of comes up a little bit and comes down and around like so. So we already have this line here, right? And it kind of comes up and around here. So that's what we have there for that. Now the head is a little bit more of a triangle there, kind of a rounded triangle. So we sort of have that head kind of popping through there, right? It kind of comes down, and this comes down and around, a little blunt off on the nose there. There we go. See that? And for the ears, we have these sort of almost like little ovals. One that's sort of interesting. This one is actually within the body. It doesn't go up above the torso. It stays inside the body. And the other one's a little more triangular in the fact where it comes up. So it kind of pops up here on the edge, right? Has kind of a straight line, comes down, and it kind of comes around, right? So we have this little triangular shape. Now let's go ahead and we got the feet on here, on the feet and the arms. Now certainly the arms, or the front legs here, or front arms here, is that we have this little curve that comes around, and this sort of meets us right there. We get this little tiny little triangle there that opens up and kind of flatten that out. And that's where our toes are going to go. And the other side here, we don't really see it. We just see this this arm sort of coming straight down, right there. It's a little narrow, and then it sort of flattens out. And again, we have this little flat area there where that toe comes down. Well, let's get that hind quarter in. Now for that, we sort of have this other little bulge shape here. And I'm going to bring this down and over. And you notice that the toe basically just comes in right about where this little curve starts to happen right there. And that's an important thing to note. Let's go ahead. And now I think I'm close to maybe thickening up the tail a little bit here. So let's go and bring that out. And I'm just going to run that line parallel, just taking it close there, and boom, just going to bring it. It's not quite a point, kind of a rounded little end there. All right, and bring that over. It gets a little bit bigger, but not too much bigger as it comes up in the torso. All right, let's go and pop in the eyes. And we notice that the eye here runs right there almost in the center of where the ear is. So I put that ear eyeball in. There's my eyeball right there, kind of runs center there. And we have a little bit of the eye from the other side here. So we just see half that circle. It's almost like a little tight little oval there. It's not quite a circle. And so we have that nose coming down. We have that tight little nose there coming over and down. There we go. So we have our basic shape of our body. So let's go ahead now and start thinking about how we're going to push that a little bit further. So we know that that back goes up, comes down, comes around, right? And torso, here we go, bring that around. Notice I'm using these straighter lines here to sort of give it a little bit of weight, kind of refining the body here. I give a little bit here, go put in the toe, right? And I can put in maybe one right there. There we go. And on the front here, we sort of have that one little toe comes out, and we sort of divide these into two little sections there. Same thing on this one here. Gonna have a little bit of that, kind of that, bring that toe, bring that toe, a couple little lines there to divide that up. Now, fairly close now on our body. All we need to know now is to go back in, and really we're gonna go back in now and just bring in our line work with our pen at this point. Now, a bit like we did when we were working with the fox, we're gonna go back in and do just a little bit of fur on here that just sort of follows the curvature of the torso and the head, but not too much. So what I'm gonna do first here is kind of bring that in there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up a little bit, ever so subtle. Right, bring that in around here. And we get down to the bottom of the body here. I'm going to go bring that line down. And we're going to come in there just a little heavier. And we're under the shadow side here. So I'm going to go bring that in a little bit heavier. And here's that line there and there. And kind of give that a little bit of a jagged, kind of go back up across the edge of that leg bone and kind of bring that fur down under here. And let's see. Now we can go a couple of different ways here. Let's go ahead and work on this foot. So we're going to go and bring in that little bit of toe that comes around. And just one little toe at a time there. There we go. And I'll bring that up. And there. Let's bring the other foot. Let's bring it down, down. And I'll bring that over. I got that first little toe, second little toe, and that one comes out. There we go. Let's go to the back of that foot. Go to that back foot here. It comes down. And we'll go a little heavier right there. And we're going to bring that toe out. There's one. And we'll go a little further up and then we'll bring out the other toe. And then we go up with a little bump there on that toe, doesn't it? And then bring it out. And this part right here just kind of goes down. It's long and straight and flat. Look at that. Let's go up into the ears here. Now for the ears, we know this ear kind of comes down. You can see it kind of coming down a little bit here. This one comes up and just goes pretty straight into there. But when we come up here to the head here, this kind of comes over. This skull part is actually bulging over and coming around that ear. So if I was to bring that up, I'd start that right here like this, and then I would bring it down to where the eye is. See that? And then this other ear would come down. A little bit of jagged lines here. And it almost comes in kind of straight like this. And then I have this wonderful little curl that comes out the underside of the ear. You see that? And I'll put in some little lines there, so showing some of that fur coming up out of that point. And for the ear down here, let's go into the same thing there. It has some little lines coming over. And I'm going to go and put in that eyeball. There we go. And then this one, remember, this is sort of a half round there. It's sort of oval. Bring that down, round. I'm going to bring in that jaw line here. So round and over, down, and put that great little rounded triangle for a nose in there. Color in those eyes. Now, if you want to make yours the red eyes, if you were to color those in and bring them into Illustrator, you just leave it hollow, and we can drop those other colors in there. So we're getting pretty close here. Let's go in. Before I put the whiskers in, I want to go ahead and do that tail. So I'm going to kind of just gently, remember, if you need to rotate the page to make your line quality a little bit better, hey, go ahead and do that. That's okay. So I'm going to come back into here and just bring that over, kind of use my whole arm. And I go back here, heavier, and then carefully, long and slow. And just bring it up to a little tip right there. There we are. That's, I like that tail right there. But I do want to make it a little bit shadower, a little more deeper, a little darker here, because it is sort of coming out of the base there. I want to sort of show that. So come back and just thicken that line up ever so subtly and kind of bring this in a little bit too. Darken that just a little bit in there. There we go. I'm showing that sort of shadowing of the underside of Mr. Mouse here. Darkening up these areas right there. Looks pretty good there. I think last thing to do back on here now, let's go back in and throw some whiskers in. Now I recommend, you can sit there and you go, oh, etc. Well, kind of minimum, let's keep it like 3. So I'm gonna go over the side here and kind of go 1, 2, 3, and the other side, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, very light and easy. It's really important to go ahead and do those in that way. So that way, you do the whiskers last, so that way you just sort of don't worry about drawing right through the lines that you had previously. That really lends a weight of believability if you're brave enough to go and take those whiskers and just long swoops. If you want to practice ahead of time, right? If you want to start your paper here and do this, right? And practice that and say, oh, okay, heavy, light, or you kind of light to thick, right? You kind of play with that a little bit, but I think most of the time it's going to be heavy into light, right? See, so people practice that a little bit, it's even all my lines right there, they all vary a little bit, but what you're looking for is just dedicated, even strokes on there. All right, so there you go, folks. You have fun with your mouse. I think I'm going to name mine Filbert. His name's Filbert. He's Phil. Let's call him Phil. No relation to Let's Feed Phil, but that's another story on Netflix, isn't it? Anyway, you guys have a good one. Have fun with your mouse, and we'll see you in the next drawing.